Double-digit thousands.
Hey guys, it's Toofy here, and today we are going to be doing a series new player heroes. Those classes are going to be tanks, supports, offense, and defense. And we will also be ranking them by the difficulty of the characters. These classes are picking one character that we think is best to play for a beginner. We will also be providing some gameplay and tips for that character. So today we are going to start with the most important part of the team, the tank. But wait, you say, why are tanks the most important part of the team? They just stand there and get punched in the face repeatedly until they explode. Yes, that is true. They get beaten more than a bowl of eggs in a French pastry shop. But that means is that everyone else is not being a bullet sponge while they are alive. The tanks are the anchors of the team. They are the point which nearly everyone should be fighting. Typically, the team who loses all of their tanking abilities will be shot, poked, exploded, and cut to pieces by Zarya's laser beam, and etc. And the only thing that can clean it up is a mercy res. Why is this important, you might ask? Because although tanks have the word tank in their name, they are capable of taking massive amounts of damage. They will not live forever. This is especially true if they play badly or if their healers do not make an effort to keep them alive. But since this episode isn't about playing healers, we'll save that discussion for later. Be sure to check out our healer/support video, which will be coming out soon. Okay, onward onto the list. The tank has 5 classes. A sassy Korean girl named Diva who mocks her enemies' skill and is obsessed with bubblegum and games and, well, winning. Second is an overly enthusiastic 7-foot-tall elderly man named Reinhardt, who has been wearing the same suit of armor for so long that it has literally started to grow mold. Number 3 is an obesely overweight bodyguard of Junkrats named Roadhog, whose face was literally melted by radioactive waste. Yikes, don't want to see under that mask. The 4th person, or not really a person, a gorilla. So Winston is a genetically engineered gorilla with an electricity cannon and a bad temper. You don't want to mess with him. And lastly, Zarya is a female Russian bodybuilder that carries around a gigantic laser cannon and hates Omnics. So as a beginner, you may look at all of these choices and be inclined to pick the one that looks the most cool to you. Now, let me just stop you here real quick. You do not want to do that. The Russian bodybuilder with the gigantic cannon may look like a bad mama jama, but for a beginner, she's the most difficult to play. You'll probably find yourself dying a lot and chewing through your mouse cord if you buy the game and go straight for Zarya. So let's rank each tank by their own skill level, also known as skill cap. And let's see if we can try and talk you into playing something easier to start with. Now is the moment you have all been waiting for. You can stop biting your fingernails because we're going to rank the tanks from easiest to hardest. From easiest to hardest, the tank class is Winston, ding ding ding, is the winner of the easiest tank to play. He doesn't have to aim, so he can simply swing his gun around like a wild animal and turn everything near him into pretty well done steak. He can jump so high that if you give him a bottle of Windex, he could clean the windows on an Airbus, which lets him get in and out of fights quickly. He also carries around a shield that can drop on the ground that stops most damage to anyone inside it, and it doesn't have much health. Next we have Reinhardt, who is just as easy. His primary ability is the fact that he can hold up a giant shield with 2,000 hit points and walk around challenging people to get close to him and fight like a real man. Now, if you're dumb enough, You will walk up to his shield and fight him like a real man. Then he will turn on his rocket hammer and perform a gentle, soothing root canal on your face. We promise you won't feel a thing. So if you are in the presence of Reinhardt, you are not a real man. He will win. Moving on to number 3 on our list, we got Roadhog. Roadhog is not much more difficult than Winston or Reinhardt. However, his main ability, which is hooking enemy players and dragging them to his face, and then filling that face up with shotgun pellets, is not easy to do. If you can't aim the hook, then you'll end up being a giant, easy to hit damage sponge, and without shields or armor, it doesn't take much to fry his bacon. Yes, I did it. I managed to land a bacon joke. Number 4 on our list is D.Va. D.Va, who is difficult because she has a kit of abilities that give her a lot of flexibility, but not everyone is good at deciding what to use or how to use it. I mean, do you fly up on the building and kill the Widowmaker and then teabag her corpse with a 2-ton mech? Or do you stand on the payload and hold up your shield to absorb Junkrat's grenades? Decisions. Although, honestly, I would teabag the Widowmaker, because I just hate getting killed by snipers. Now moving on to the 5th. Zarya. Zarya is on a whole new level of difficulty. She has to maintain weapon charge, be able to precisely land a lob bombs on that curve away from her weapon. Not to mention she needs to know when to shield herself and when to put shields on other players. I would make a joke about her muscles, but honestly, Zarya is no joke until you learn how the game works. I would stay away from her for now. Okay, so we've ranked the heroes from the easiest to hardest, but which one should you play? Maybe Winston because he's the easiest? Well, actually we don't recommend Winston. Sure, he's easy, but he's also situational. He's good at taking out certain characters on the enemy team, but he's not so good at getting your team to an objective alive. Which leads us to Reinhardt. Reinhardt, we believe, is the best tank for new players to start off with. The reason for this is that his set of character abilities are all very new player friendly to use. First of all, his strongest point in his giant shield. It's big, it's blue, friendly players can shoot through it in any direction, and did we mention it's big? It can single-handedly cover an entire width of most choke points, meaning that several characters can stand behind and still see well enough to aim through. It can take up to 2,000 points of damage before it breaks, making it the strongest barrier in the game. If you drop the shield for a few seconds, then the HP on it starts regenerating like a gamer slamming Mountain Dews before a match. But seriously, clicking the right mouse button and facing the bad guys is like 90% of your job as Reinhardt. Second, he has a giant hammer that can smash anything within 4 meters for a lot of damage. If the bad guys are standing close to you, the hammer will hit them and it will hit all of them. Unlike some weapons that can only hit a single target, 2 of Reinhardt's attacks can hit anything he aims at. Which brings us to his third ability, the Fire Strike. The Fire Strike is exactly what it sounds like. He uses the rocket engine on his hammer to shoot a wedge of fire directly in front of him. It goes through barriers and shields. It will hit as many enemies that it passes through. Catch the entire enemy team behind a single doorway, flame strike them all, and send Mercy the medical bill. Also, he can rocket charge, which is easily one of the most fun abilities in the game. He turns on the rocket pack on his armor and slides across the ground, smashing enemies out of the way like a giant bowling ball. He will catch one of the enemies, usually the first one he hits, and take them for a wild ride until they become in contact with a solid object. At this point, the character that he took for a ride will look like a lot of tomato paste. Finally, we get to good stuff. What do you mean by good stuff, you might ask? A giant bowling ball with a hammer sounds pretty awesome to me. Well, that's not all, guys. Cause for the cheap price of simply bashing the enemy with your hammer and using Fire Strike every time it is available, you will eventually charge your ultimate ability. And it is simply one of the best ultimate abilities in the game. Reinhardt takes his hammer and slams it on the ground, which knocks everyone in a large cone of fire on their back for 2.5 seconds. And for the enemy, 2.5 seconds is eternity. It's usually enough time to kill just about everyone laying on the ground in front of him before they can get back up and try to kill him. So those are his abilities, but how should you play Reinhardt? Well, he really has 2 phases. He has the defense phase and the aggressive phase. The majority of the time, Reinhardt will be needed for his defensive abilities. His positioning is key, so you never want to be standing around all by yourself. If the rest of your team goes left on a map, don't be the Reinhardt that goes right. You're there to keep your team alive, at least at first. Another big tip for Reinhardt players is don't charge through the enemy team to pin one enemy player. As soon as you make this mistake, you've only killed one enemy and the rest of your team can't use your shield to attack, and you will die very, very fast behind enemy lines with no support at all. The second phase is called the aggressive phase. At some point, your shield will be destroyed, or the enemy will flank you, or maybe your team has killed 2 to 3 of the enemy players on the control map or the cart. This is when you should go from being a big punching bag to smashing people in the face with your gigantic hammer and pinning them into walls and then roasting them on an open fire with your Fame Strike. The players you should watch out for most on Reinhardt are the ones that can flank you or flank your shield or do massive amounts of damage to it. Junkrat, for instance, will treat your shield like a tank rolling over a watermelon. Pharah can either destroy your shield with her high damaged rockets or fly over your head and shoot you in the back. And I shouldn't have to tell you, having rockets fly up your butt isn't very comfortable. So ask your friendly teammates to shoot her out of the sky and try to keep her in front of you. And Soldier is also very dangerous because he can do serious damage to your shield with his very high rate of sustained fire. If Soldier and Junkrat are both shooting at your shield, then it will start to feel like you're holding up a sheet of ice up to a flamethrower. If your team wants a shield to hide behind, then make sure they know that killing Junkrat and Soldier will help a lot. Well, that's all for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to go check out my Twitter and Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Comment down below if you think these tips were helpful or not. So yeah, we would love to see your opinions. So I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.